It's your girl, Professor Cinephile, and I am back. And you may already be able to tell what I'm about to talk about. I am back with another review of a Tyler Perry film. This time, it's called Divorce in Black. Okay. We don't- Okay. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because it's an awful film. We know it's an awful film. I'm just laughing at the absurdity that Tyler Perry continues to have such major distribution deals with companies like Amazon and Netflix, but they actually don't care about the quality of it. All they care about is who's watching and who's streaming. So I'm a part of that. I'm part of the problem. I am complicit in Tyler Perry continuing to have this, but I have to watch. I have to watch. I have to study because I have to come to you all and be able to talk about the absurdity of his films. Okay, so Divorce in Black stars Meagan Good and Cory Hartrick. Okay, a lot of people don't. They're like, who's that? Who's that? You know the twins Tia and Tamara. Tia's ex-husband. She's divorcing him. I don't know if the divorce is finalized, but I know she just decided she wasn't going to be married to him no more. So it's really interesting that he is doing a film that is talking about divorce. Spoiler alert, you know how this goes. I'm going to be talking about some details from the film. So if you have not seen it yet and you don't want it to be spoiled, pause it here, go watch the film, come back and enjoy what I have to say about it. All right. So the premise of the film is that this couple is married. The woman is unhappy in the marriage, but she stays because she's been taught that you're supposed to stick it out in your relationship. You're not supposed to leave when times get tough. He's a jerk, like through and through, selfish jerk. He comes from a bum ass family. Like he had no home training. His mama's wild. It's crazy. It's a whole situation. He wasn't never gonna be nobody, but we learned that she kind of sticks with him because he's had a lot of trauma throughout his life, and she kind of wants to be one of those black women that helps the black man heal his trauma, even though it's not her responsibility. And she ends up kind of forsaking her own happiness to be his peace or whatever other nonsense they're talking about these days. So, finally gets to the point where he is like, he wants to get a divorce. And she's like, I bet. Like she rolls with it. He doesn't expect her to go along with it. He expects that she's gonna put up a fight and all that kind of stuff like that. And she's kind of like, she has that aha moment where she's like, no, he's actually trash and we don't need to be married. Okay, you want to get a divorce? Cool. I just want to make sure that when we get divorced that I, retain what I need and what I want for my life to be able to move on. And boom, while this is happening, that she's got a little spark going on with another person. That dude, gonna be the one to come and save her and teach her about love. You've heard this before. You've heard this before because if you've seen one Tyler Perry film, you've seen them all. Um, Divorce in Black, if you have to ask me, it is worse than Mea Culpa, but not as bad as Fall from Grace. There's never going to be a Tyler Perry film that can possibly be worse than Fall from Grace. 100% awful. One of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. Mea Culpa, you guys can check my old videos. I already reviewed that, but I'm going to put it there because the repetition is part of the problem. Tyler Perry has no creativity, right? So he doesn't have creativity because when he was successful, he was writing these like Chitlin Circuit plays. He had this character, Medea. As I've said before, Tyler Perry is best when he's wearing a woman's dress, right? And so anything that goes outside of that, he's really kind of stretching. He has no experience with filmmaking. He's not a filmmaker. Like, just let's just stop lying and calling. And when people say that Tyler Perry's a filmmaker, no, he's not. He has no training. He's never studied the art of filmmaking. He doesn't understand the craft. He doesn't understand the mechanics. He doesn't understand anything related to putting a story on film. He was about to start this whole like $800 million pipeline or whatever to, get writers and strengthen them. He scratched that when he found out that there was AI programs that would be able to write scripts. he goes on record saying that that they write scripts almost as well as he does, therefore he doesn't need writers. And if you don't know, he has a history of going against the writers union and not paying writers fair wages. So we already know that Tyler Perry hates a well-written story. Tyler Perry is like allergic to well-written stories. Tyler Perry seems to be the enemy of a story that makes sense. Tyler Perry and plot holes go together like tigers and stripes. Okay. The stories don't make logical sense. And we're not even going to talk about, because I've already done this before. He's got his issues with consistency, with prop consistency, costume consistency, all those kinds of things. He's got issues with sound editing and mixing and all that stuff. He's got issues with general editing, and cinematography and things like that. He uses the same assistant director all the time. From what I've heard, he's barely there as a director, so we can kind of put it off on this guy. This film could have been so much better because it has some quality actors in it. Okay, it's got Debbie Morgan, who's classic, soap opera actress and film actress. And if anybody can bring life to a ratchet drama like a Tyler Perry production, it's Debbie Morgan, which is why she's a regular. And I love she's elder and he employs her, so that's great. Meagan Goode is a solid actress. She's not amazing. She's not terrible, but she is a solid actress. She has put out some good things. Some other things, she just kind of disappears in them. Cory Hartrick, he's a pretty good actor. I love him on All American Homecoming. I think that he's decent, and he's had some other roles that he's been decent in. A lot of people don't necessarily know his name and didn't really know him until the situation with him and Tia divorcing, which I think that may have been part of it, kind of like he's her plus one, and a lot of men can't deal with that, but whatever. Bianca Lawson's dad, Richard Lawson, is in it. That's Miss Tina knows her boo, her new boo. Oh, she's Lawson now, I think, because I think they got married. I don't really know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what their status is, but I know that he's associated with the family in that way. So you got some pretty decent people. They should have been able to pull this off, and they tried their best. I'm not even gonna lie. And that's probably what made it worse for me, is that these people actually tried their best. At least with Mia Culpa, you had terrible actors, because Kelly Rowland can't act, and neither can Trevante Rhodes, but they're beautiful people to look at. This made it this was worse because you actually have good actors, and it still managed to be such a horrible film. The opening scene with the whole family getting ratchet at the funeral, that is tired, that is played. I don't know why so many people rely on that as a plot device when talking about Black families. You always want to throw in a funeral scene where things get ratchet. Like, come on, be creative. There's something else that we can talk about. Why they had this man, why they had them carrying this man out with no casket, like carrying a supposed dead body where the brother is breathing very heavily and you can see it. Why did he do that? I don't. Why, Tyler? Why did you do that? I try not to read other people's reviews before I do mine or before I watch, films. But afterwards, after I've seen the film, and sometimes when I already have my thoughts together, I go and read what other people say, just to make sure that I'm not tripping, right? Like, everybody hates this film. The Guardian gave it 1 star and said it's his worst ever. Somebody raised a really great point, and I think it was the Daily Beast, when they said that Tyler Perry is really stuck in this idea that a bad person is just a bad person always. And there's no real redemption for them. There's no depth. There's no arc. There's no possibility for anything. Because he's not a good writer. So his characters are all one-dimensional. And the way he tries to integrate one-dimensional characters into each other's lives, it doesn't work because people are not like that. Human beings are not one-dimensional. Human beings are multifaceted. We've got so many complicated things with us. We are nuanced individuals. Those things need to show up in his stories, and they don't. His stories are very, very black and white, and this is going to be this way, and this is going to be that way. And I think part of it is he is an extreme Virgo, and they tend to be very meticulous and kind of walled off in that way. They're very big on like making things fit and making things make sense. But the thing is, you're telling love stories most of the time. love doesn't make sense. Like it really doesn't. Like when you think, it doesn't matter what kind of love, romantic, family, what, it doesn't make sense. And it's complicated, and it's robust, and it's filled with all these different things that he never seems to capture in his films. And so when you're watching a film about two people that are getting divorced, you have no real backstory for why she would just be like, okay, like it's nothing. Because what you're setting, he sets her up and makes it seem like she's a woman who is being emotionally abused and possibly physically abused as well. So a lot of people that are in those situations, a lot of women in those situations, usually struggle with leaving their partners, right? Especially because he shows that she empathizes with him and his trauma. So when he wants to get a divorce, why is she just like, okay, sure. Like there was no resistance there. There was no fight there. There was no kind of like complicated situation. But then he suddenly now is obsessed with wanting to get back with her because she possibly spent a night with someone else. Like you're making him too simple. You're making that way too simple, that this man who's so adamant about getting a divorce, literally 2 days later, wants to move back into his house and kind of take over again. Why? And then you have him kill the man's animals. Like, why would he randomly just like kill animals? What have you indicated to us, Tyler Perry, in this entire movie, that this man has maybe these kinds of psychological issues and psychiatric disorders that would lead to him killing animals of a man he suspects his wife might like? How did we get to that lead? We didn't actually, which is why it's ridiculous, and which is why it's completely absurd and it's ludicrous, right? So we don't allow Tyler Perry to make sense because he does not make sense. And this works best in his comedy things, whether it's a play or even a Medea movie, right? I've seen every Tyler Perry film, and I've seen several of the Medea films multiple times. I do find them to have such hilarious elements at times. The overarching stories are usually stupid and silly, but he really has some great comedic moments. And that's where the absurd and the ridiculous can live. But when you're trying to bring forth a drama that has tragedy, sadness, all these kinds of things, you have to allow human beings to be nuanced, and you have to allow them to be full. And Tyler Perry does not do that. So if you're watching Divorced in Black, I've been looking at the reaction, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm really trying not to be that person. But the people I see who love it um, are largely people who cannot read very well and who have a very limited understanding of the world around them. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm sorry. Um, all the people I know with intelligence are kind of like, no, this movie's terrible. And Tyler Perry knows his base, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Tyler Perry knows his base, and that's who he's appealing to. I'm giving this film a half star just because I'm rooting for Meagan. I don't know what's going on with her and Jonathan Majors. I don't get that, but I'm rooting for her. So I'm gonna give it a half star because I'm always gonna give her at least a half star because what she did in Eve's Bayou was brilliant at that age. Nobody should have been able to act that damn well, and she did her thing. So I'm gonna give Devil in Black half star. Do not watch this film. I'm never going to recommend that you watch a Tyler Perry film. If you must suffer through it, just keep in mind that Tyler Perry lacks nuance. He is extremely black and white, and he doesn't understand what healthy love looks like between men and women because he's never experienced it. Okay, you get it.